What's in my travel mechanic bag? With Emma Marinin. Another thing I do before I head out on any mountain bike, road trip, race trip, whatever, is I dump out my travel mechanic bag and make sure I've got all the things I need, that it's the right component stuff for the bikes that I'm taking with me, and just packing it up. It's kind of peace of mind. So what goes in my mechanic bag? Oh, a few things I didn't take out. You always need a pair of scissors. I don't know why, you always need a pair. You can't find them, so they're just sitting very accessible in the front of my mechanic bag. I bring a black Sharpie, also gets used all the time. And then I also bring like a white wax pencil. I found this is super, I just end up like needing to mark like the height of my seat post because my bike's going on somebody's car and they need to lower it. I'm like, eek, I have a special spot. So I can just really easily mark it. Also that writes really well on tires, which sometimes I need to write something on my tires. Okay, so bottom of my bag goes some of the more replaceable or just big stuff. So I always bring a few extra chain rings with me of different sizes. When I'm going up to the BC bike race, it's obviously a lot of climbing, a lot of technical riding, so I'm running a 30-tooth chain ring on my bike, but I'm gonna bring also a 32 just in case, and then a 34. I don't think I'm gonna want the 34 down in Moab at Moab Rocks, but you never know. Sometimes things get really pedally and I end up wanting a bigger chain ring. I also always have a backup rotor that travels with me. They get banged. I don't know, I've given them to people. They just seem to get used. And also I always have a set of disc pads. Make sure you've got the right type of pads for your bike. My race bike, my Pivot Mach 4, has very different brakes than my Pivot Trail 429 does. And neither of those are the same as the brakes on my Pivot Vault. So make sure you have the right ones for the bike you're taking. With taking things on and off, I like to make sure they're torqued down to the right spec. So Silka makes this really sweet portable torque wrench tool. It just has all the right pieces. Even if you don't need to get something to torque, it just means that you've got the right bit for everything. I mean, there's hexes on here, there's torques, there's a Phillips head, all the things that you might need, and it's really easy to pack up. This becomes really critical if I'm going to need to be changing out components on my bike, or I don't know. It gets used a ton as well. So that goes in the bag. I always have a backup set of ESI grips. I ruin them with some regularity. It's really nice to put on fresh ones. So that lives in my travel bag as well. Let's see, some of the other random things that go in there. Always have a shock pump with me, especially when I travel and you're going to places with really different elevation from where you live at. Check how much pressure is in your suspension. You would be surprised at how much it changes. Of course, a set of Allen keys. That really should just be obvious. But I also have a Phillips and a flathead screwdriver and a socket wrench. That works with some of my tools. Especially this works with, I bring on the little special tool that tightens and loosens center lock rotors. Really key to have this puppy with me. Then let's see, other tools that I carry. What is little chain pliers are super important. I wax my chains and I usually bring extra chains with me. So I take my chains on and off quite a bit. And this just makes it really simple to do it. I also have a regular pair of snips that I take with me. Mostly these get used taking off race plates, pulling those zip ties off. And I'm like a hero because everyone always wants to pull their race plate off and they don't have these, or they just want to cut off the tails. Also have a little special extra torque key with me. I use a KS brand stem and it takes this really funny size Torx key. I can't remember what it is. It's like a 2, I think, not even a 2.5, I don't know. Something random. I know I need this. So any special weird shaped things you have, make sure you have the tool for it. I also have a chain breaker with me. Make sure that if your chain breaker you've owned for the past 12 years, that might just be for a 10-speed chain and not work for the 12-speed chains that most of us run now. So make sure that if it's ancient, you have the right one. I always bring a backup CO2 cartridge that just lives in here. I have them stashed everywhere because when you are using them during races, you end up finding yourself using lots of them. So they're stashed everywhere. I also usually have a backup tube in here, which I probably should put in there. I started running Cushcore in my tires recently, and basically I just don't get flats anymore. But since I'm traveling on the road, I'm gonna put one in just in case. It's kind of one of those, if you have it, you won't need it. I always have a little bit of electrical tape. Never know what it gets used for, but I actually burn through it pretty fast. In my bike, I also have duct tape, but I don't need that on my mechanic bag. I try not to use duct tape on my bike because it's not the easiest to get off once I put it on. Okay, what else do I have in here? I have a whole set of valve stems, valve cores, plugs, anything you could possibly need to deal with that system on your wheels. So just have all the bits. I have a backup master link. I also will bring a backup chain with me. Again, I waxed my chain, so this one's already waxed. And there's a master link on it, and I've got a tag on it that marks what bike and chain ring it's meant for. This is for my Mach 4 on the 30 tooth. So this will just go in the mechanic bag in case I need a backup chain, or at some point during the race I'll just swap out chains anyways. I always have extra cleats and stuff with me. Yeah. Every now and then you lose one. It's good to be able to replace it. Backup Derailer Hanger. I travel with a whole bunch of them because, again, it seems like if you need one, you're probably in some sort of unfortunate round where you're going to need a few. Always have tire levers with me. These actually don't need to be in my bag anymore, but Cushcore has a special tire lever which works better than any other tire lever I've ever had. It's got a good handle on it. So this works even if you don't have Cushcore in your tires. But I always need two, so I have a backup with me. I have an air pressure gauge. Old trusty here. Love these. And then I have a towel that goes in there, or a rag rather. I always have a few extra zip ties. Actually, I have another place that I have a whole bunch of assortment of zip ties, but just a few for easy grabbing, live on the outside. And some of the more disposable things. Always have lube. I use Wend Wax, their liquid wax lube. Again, I generally wax my chains, but some days, especially when I'm traveling, just a quick, this is a liquid wax. It's amazing. If you wax your chains, which I recommend you get into. And then I have a backup sealant for my tires. I use orange sealant. What's really cool about this little gizmo is it's got a dipstick with it. And that way I can just stick it down in the valve stem and see how much sealant I have in there, and then it's got a great little way that I can just push the sealant in there with only having to take the valve core out. So that lives on the outside of my mechanic bag. I always have some waterproof grease that lives in the bag. I always have some post paste. I use this to clean my dropper seat post stanchions, and I use it on the stanchions on my suspension as well. And then finally, I just have a little zip strap because actually generally gets used most when I'm adjusting brakes, and it's really awkward to adjust your rear brake if you're by yourself, and this way I can lasso the lever shut while I tighten up and adjust my rear brake. So it just lives in my mechanic kit. It has a whole bunch of uses. So all repacked up, ready to go. I just need to throw in a tube and it's ready to hit the road.
List of what's in the bag. The tools: Allen keys, screwdrivers, torque and socket wrench, special component wrenches, chainring and center lock tool, wire cutters, chain pliers, chain breakers, and a shock pump. The extra parts: a derailleur hanger, cleats, chain and master link, rotor and brake pads, chain rings, and grips. Things for tire mishaps: valve stem and core tool, CO2 cartridges, pressure gauge, tube, tire plugs, and tire levers. The goops: grease, chain lube, tire sealant, and post paste. And the everyday items: a Sharpie, a wax pencil, zip ties, electrical tape, scissors, a strap, and a rag.